Chapter 34, Ling Jian's Position. Ling Tian began to hum a tune as he walked casually to the room he stayed in. He had finally taken care of Mr. Ken completely. Although there were certain things that went a little wrong, Ling Tian was still extremely satisfied. After he walked past a bamboo shelter covered in snow, he was already able to see his own room door. Right at that moment, the door opened and a child walked out from inside with his head lowered. As Ling Tian took a look, this pale-faced boy was dressed in a thick cotton-padded jacket. However, he looked a lot better than when he first arrived. Despite his skinny appearance, a deep chilly glow could be seen deep within his eyes. It was as though it was a flickering ghostly light in the middle of the night, his whole body emanating a chilly aura. This was Ling Jian, who was brought back by Ling Tian. It seemed that Kaiyu did not let Ling Tian down and had brought Ling Jian over. From now on, Ling Jian would only belong to Ling Tian alone. The reason Ling Tian took a liking to Ling Jian was not just because of his spectacular control over his own body. Another reason was the chilly aura which filled Ling Jian. With Ling Tian's experience from his past life, anyone who possessed such an aura would be able to become a king in the darkness with proper training. A top-notch assassin. Coincidentally, from his memory, Ling Tian had a perfect training method to train assassins. In the Ling family from his previous life, grooming assassins which were hidden in the dark was extremely crucial to their survival. It was also a sharp sword used to deal with enemies. Now, Ling Tian wanted to train Ling Jian into a killer as such. No, it wasn't enough for him to only meet that standard. Ling Tian wanted Ling Jian to become the king of darkness in this world, the king of assassins. As for Ling Jian, he met Ling Tian's expectations, be it physically or in terms of his experiences. Especially the way Ling Jian was able to conceal his tracks without anyone teaching him to do so was something which Ling Tian admired. You have to know, as an assassin, concealing one's trace was the foundation of everything. Assassins' specialty was to conceal themselves in the darkness forever and never fight the enemy head-on. No matter what kind of pugilistic rule of a fair fight was nothing but rubbish to them. Killing with a single strike through any means necessary was the rule assassins must follow. After he entered the room, Ling Tian saw that there was a campfire in the center of the room. The green flame which was burning with the charcoal did not let out a single wisp of smoke, warming up the entire room. Ling Tian wanted to take off his own jacket, but Ling Jian had already walked forward and wanted to help Ling Tian take it off. Ling Tian was stunned for a moment. Then, he did not take off his jacket and tapped Ling Jian on the shoulders lightly. Ling Jian, take a seat first. I think I have to talk to you about some things. When I am talking, you only have to listen carefully. But I will only say this once. Ling Tian then stood up straight and responded, yes. Then, he sat on the stool like a block of wood, with his eyes gleaming with light, staring at Ling Tian silently. Ling Tian laughed out bitterly and said, Ling Jian, first, you have to be clear about why I am bringing you back for. You have to know, I am not bringing you back to become my servant to help me take care of my daily necessities. Ling Jian, as long as you can pass my test, you will become my hands. My most trusted assistant. You will become a brother whom I can entrust my life to. Do you understand? Ling Jian's body then shook as gratitude was revealed in his eyes. His lips began to move but nothing came out from his mouth. Tears began to fill his eyes. Ling Tian then raised his hands to stop Ling Jian from saying anything as he continued, I know what you are thinking of and I also know how you feel. You do not need to talk about all of these things, it is enough for you to keep it in your heart. Of course, all of these words are merely empty words before you pass the test. However, you must be extremely clear of your status. In this family, you do not have to serve anyone. Besides that, always remember something. Apart from me, you do not have to follow the orders of anyone. Remember, anyone. Apart from being respectful to my blood relatives, you can despise anyone else in this world the moment you leave this mansion. That includes any prince, duke or king. Even in this family, you can also despise anyone else apart from my grandparents and parents. Do you understand?" Ling Tian's eyes were already glistening with tears at this moment. Although he did not know what Ling Tian wanted him to do, he never dreamt that Ling Tian would give him such a high status. Unknowingly, Ling Tian's back was straight as he stared at Ling Tian unblinkingly, afraid that he would miss out anything Ling Tian said. In this instant, Ling Tian had a thought, such a master, even if I have to die for him someday, I will definitely die with a smile. No one knew that the world's #1 cold-blooded killer who stood atop the peak of the world and was only loyal to Ling Tian alone had built his confidence for the first time today. He had taken the first step to shocking the world and from then on, beginning to stretch out his wings. All of these was because of the words which Ling Tian said with such certainty. After speaking, Ling Tian stood up, took off his jacket and hung it. He then lay down on his bed without saying another word. In the whole process, Ling Tian did not even take a single look but only sat down silently. He used his hands to rub the places of his body which still experienced pain to relieve himself of the ache and fatigue. At times, he would stretch his own body, going about his own activities and ignoring everyone else. He knew that his test had already begun. The faster he regained his strength, the higher the chance for him to pass the test. Now, saying anything was useless. If he was unable to pass the test of his young noble, then everything Ling Tian just said were just empty words. Ling Tian had already resolved to pass his young noble's test so he could be someone his young noble trusted. He would then be able to protect his young noble at any time with his life. As long as I am alive, no one in this world, be it the emperor or a deity, will touch a single hair on my young noble. Although he did not say that aloud, Ling Tian had already made an oath in his heart. Although this oath was not as vicious as the one he made before, it was one made with his heart and soul, made with his life and loyalty. This oath would also follow Ling Tian throughout his life to become his life principle. The night approached silently and left silently. Ling Tian opened his eyes as the warm sunlight shone in from the window. A weird smile then surfaced on Ling Tian's lips. Today must be the day when the Zhao family head, Zhao Fenghan, is coming. Chapter 35, Zhao family head. Early in the morning, someone arrived at the gate of the Ling family mansion and gave a notice of visit. Duke Ling's sworn brother, also the family head of the wealthiest family, Zhao Fenghan, was going to visit Ling Zan of the Ling family in the afternoon today. Everyone in the Ling family all became busy. The family head of the wealthiest family's visit was no small matter at all. The Ling family's chefs all personally picked the best ingredients to show what they got in the afternoon. The godson of Duke Ling, Ling Kong, was running around all over, monitoring the progress everywhere while preparing for the visit. At the same time, he instructed his son, Ling Zhen, to make sure he leaves a favorable impression on the Zhou family head later when he sees him. For a figure like the Zhou family head, a single compliment from him would change your future. As Duke Ling looked at the notice of visit, he was cursing out vehemently. At the same time, he felt that something was wrong. Since when did that old fox Zhou ever give me a notice of visit when he comes? Doesn't he just barge his way in every time? Why is he so serious this time? This sudden notice of visit just had too much meaning hidden within it. Ling Zan could not help but think about it deeply. Don't tell me that old man went crazy? Duke Ling thought to himself. No matter what, he definitely isn't happy about something. It doesn't seem like something small either. Ling Zan could not help but be puzzled about just when he had offended that fellow. After thinking for half a day, he was still completely puzzled. Ling Zan then did not bother thinking about it any further as he thought to himself, when that old fox Zhou comes later, I must definitely give him a good scolding. So what if you're rich? The sun slowly rose into the sky and the sky was free from clouds, signaling good weather. The warm sunlight had begun to purge out the bone-piercing chill of winter. Noon was about to arrive. A horse carriage was clad in a black cloth with a golden chrysanthemum weaved onto it. Under the warm sunlight, it slowly made its way through the streets with the distinct sound of the horse's hooves hammering the ground. In front of the horse carriage, there were 4 men dressed in black with a sword by their waists. Their eyes were cold as they led the front of the carriage. To the sides of the carriage, there were also 2 such men following closely. Behind the carriage were 8 men dressed in black following silently in 2 neat rows. Although it was but a single carriage approaching the Ling family mansion, the guards of the mansion could feel a great pressure coming upon them. In that instant, the atmosphere of the place became heavy as the guards felt their breathing becoming uneven. A wave of majestic aura emanated from the black carriage just like that. As the carriage came to a halt, a black-dressed man walked up to the door of the carriage and took a high kneel with one of his fists planted to the ground. Another man dressed in black then walked forward to lift up the veil of the carriage. A black pair of boots then appeared from the carriage, stepping on the first man's back. Following which, an old man with white hair walked out from the carriage. His face was lean and his body skinny, but his eyes were gleaming as he was still hale and hearty. Following a chuckle, a little girl dressed in a green jacket jumped down from the carriage and was caught by the old man in midair. A guard had already long gone to alert Ling Tian as he led a large crowd of people to welcome their guests with a face full of smiles. That old man was naturally the Zhao family head, Zhao Fenghan. Seeing his sword brother receive him with a face full of joy from reuniting with his brother he had not seen for a long time, Zhao Fenghan could only suppress that unhappiness in his heart. Seeing the unrestrained smile on his sworn brother's face, Zhao Fenghan could not help but feel warm in his heart. At the same time, he began to reminisce about the times when they were fighting together as blood filled the battlefield. He then could not help but feel that his actions today were a little too much. Haze, forget it. I will find a time to talk about that matter. Since we have not seen each other after so long, I should not ruin the atmosphere. After Zhao Fenghan came to the capital, he had ordered people to gather information about the young master of the Ling family. The results of the information he had gathered angered Zhao Fenghan to the point he almost died. The more he looked at the information, the angrier he got. Although this child was still young, he was extremely horrible. If Ling Tian were to continue growing up as such, the Ling family would definitely be ruined in his hands. How would Zhao Fenghan dare to bet on his granddaughter's happiness like that? In a moment of anger, he decided to give the Ling family a notice of visit. The meaning of giving a notice of visit was equivalent to an official visit between nations, meaning that everything was official. For Zhao Fenghan to give a notice of visit with his status, it obviously meant that he wanted Ling Tian to receive him personally at the door. Zhao Fenghan knew that he would definitely make Ling Tian displeased, or even angered, by doing so. But for the plans of his own family and the happiness of his granddaughter, he felt that he did not have a choice. Ling Tian broke out into a laugh and received Zhao Fenghan with a big hug. At this moment, Zhao Fenghan also revealed the sincere expression in his eyes as he stretched his arms wide as well. These 2 brothers who had been through life and death battles together finally met again after 5 years. Ling Tian hugged Zhao Fenghan and slapped his back as though he was extremely excited. But when no one else was able to see him, Ling Tian whispered into Zhao Fenghan's ears, "Zhao Fenghan, you bitch. If you do not give me a proper explanation about the notice of visit today, your sister-in-law and I will definitely skin you alive today." Zhao Fenghan laughed bitterly in his heart. I knew that this old man wouldn't be able to take it, trouble is indeed here. He then replied softly, "Let's talk about this later." Under the warm reception of the Ling family, the Zhao family entered the Ling mansion together. Old Madame Ling took the women in the family to welcome the Zhao family head in the mansion but had a chilly look on her face. Zhao Fenghan took a step forward and cupped his fists. How could this little brother dare to trouble sister-in-law to welcome me personally? I'm extremely terrified by this hospitality." Old Madame Ling did not even flinch as she replied seriously, "The family head of the wealthiest family is paying a visit and I am extremely honored by this visit. This old lady must definitely lead the women in the family to welcome the Zhao family head." Zhao Fenghan felt extremely awkward. He knew this old lady and the three of them had ventured through the continent when they were younger. Zhao Fenghan was not afraid of anything in the world but was only extremely respectful towards this old lady. There was once when Zhao Fenghan was heavily injured and this sister-in-law of his had saved him from thousands of enemy troops. Only after taking care of him for a full 7 days was he finally saved from the brink of death. In Zhao Fenghan's heart, Ling Tian and his wife were extremely important to him. Now that he saw his sister-in-law go through such proper ceremonies with him, he could not help but be flustered and his face turned red. He then looked towards Ling Tian with a pleading expression only to receive a cunning smile from Ling Tian in reply, who slowly lifted his head towards the sky as though there was something fun in the skies. "What a joke. You are the one who sent an official notice of visit. Now that you are in trouble, you want this old man to clean up after you? How can there be something so good in the world?" Zhao Fenghan grit his teeth as his face turned red. Helpless, he could only act as though he did not know what was going on. Why is sister-in-law doing this? Did this little brother offend sister-in-law? Sister-in-law, please let me know if I am in the wrong and I will definitely correct myself. Old Madame Ling replied coldly, "I wouldn't dare. The Zhao family is extremely wealthy and had sent an official notice of visit to this small Ling family of mine. How would I dare to not come out to personally welcome you? What wrong does the Zhao family head have? It should be the Ling family who is in the wrong." Zhao Fenghan then roared towards the guards dressed in black, "Which bastard was the one who gave an official notice of visit? Come forward." As he roared, his eyes began to blink quickly. The guards dressed in black all stared at each other, dumbfounded. "If you did not give the order, who would dare to use your name to send a notice of visit? Isn't that just seeking death?" After being stunned for a moment, a guard dressed in black finally snapped into his senses and took a step forward. With a knee to the ground, he said, "This subordinate did not do my job properly. I hope that family head will punish me." Zhao Fenghan then kicked him, sending him flying as he scolded, "Bastard! Is there a need for me to send a notice of visit to the Zhao family when I come to visit? Failing at everything you do. Go back and receive 100 whips from the enforcement hall, you trash which embarrassed me." That guard then responded quickly and took his leave. After scolding the guard, Zhao Fenghan turned around and said with an apologetic smile, "Sister-in-law, this little brother does not know about this matter at all." Old Madame Ling's lips then twitched as she rolled her eyes. If old Madame Ling was not able to see that this was merely an act, that would be impossible. Ling Zhou, who was by the side, saw that the time was about right and stepped forward. "Mother, it seems that Uncle Zhou really does not know about this. It is just that his subordinates did not know about the relationship between the two family of ours, making his own decision. It is all just a misunderstanding." Zhao Fenghan immediately added on, yes, it is a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Ha ha ha." He then looked towards Ling Zhou with gratitude and glared at Ling Tian. Old Madame Ling responded, "Oh, so it was just a misunderstanding." Zhao Fenghan wiped off the cold sweat on his face, yes, it was just a misunderstanding. He. His voice became dry as though he was an old hen with his neck choked up. Old Madame Ling immediately became warm as she replied, "Since it was just a misunderstanding, let us forget about it. This beautiful young lady must be Xue, right? Look at her, just how beautiful she is. Come, came to grandmother, grandmother has something good for you. So obedient." Kissing the little girl on the cheeks, old Madame Ling hugged her up and walked in together with all the females in the family. Zhao Fenghan then heaved a sigh of relief. "I have finally passed this round. But right at that moment, old Madame Ling's voice sounded, "Ling Zhou, give a piece of cloth to your Uncle Zhou to wipe his eyes. He seems pretty tired, blinking his eyes so vigorously." Zhou Fenghan broke out in cold sweat. Chapter 36, Super Domineering. Turning his head back and seeing the expression of a smile and yet not a smile coming from Ling Zan, he could not help but rage. "Old thing, are you mute?" Ling Zan snorted before gloomily asking, "You're blaming me for this matter?" Zhou Fenghan let out a snort in anger, but had no words to retort. This whole matter was created from a moment of his anger and thus could not be blamed on others. A brief spell of depression struck him as his eyes wandered around. Seemingly feeling as though something was missing, it suddenly struck him as his face turned frosty and he raged, "Where's your darling grandson?" Ling Zan was also puzzled for a while. He just saw the little fellow not too long ago. How did he disappear in a blink of an eye? Carrying some suspicions, he looked towards Ling Zhou. Where did Tanner go? Ling Kong, who was standing by the side, was rejoicing in their misfortune. At such an important scene, that good-for-nothing was actually not at the scene. Was this not looking for trouble? As both the Ling father and son were tongue-tied, an old man wearing a green robe hurriedly walked out from the inner courtyard. "Ha ha ha, I heard the Zhou family's great chariot is here, so this old man shamelessly came to welcome you too. After so many years, I trust the Zhou family head is still well?" Zhou Fenghan took a glance, and received a shock and asked as he hurriedly stepped forward to meet him, "Brother Qin? Why are you here?" Both Ling father and son rejoiced inwardly and took this chance to bring the various guests into the reception hall of the Ling residence. Ling Zan gave a look to the attendant behind him, causing him to hurriedly sneak away to find Ling Tian. Mr. Qin was shaking hands while chatting happily with Zhou Fenghan, looking as though they were bosom friends. Zhou Fenghan purposefully walked slower than the rest, and as the crowd started to pull away from them, he pulled Mr. Qin's hand and said, "Brother Qin, this Zhou has a matter to consult you with. Please stay with me." The black-robed bodyguards all knew that their family head had something to consult Mr. Qin with, and all of them surrounded the two of them from the view of the crowd, without so much as a single sound being made. Mr. Qin of course knew the reason as to why he was being held back. Subconsciously, he gained a whole new level of respect for the frightening intellect that Ling Tian held. This little fellow could actually predict the steps Zhou Fenghan would take and moreover, without the slightest amount of deviation. How many mortals in the area under the heavens could achieve that? Zhou Fenghan whispered, "Since Brother Qin is tutoring here, this Zhou shall get straight to the point. Can I know how the Ling young master is like?" Indeed, it came. Mr. Qin gave a laugh and sighed, but his facial expressions were wondrous to behold. While shaking his head, his face changed constantly, from shame to disbelief and a sad sigh, finally speaking in a pained tone, Brother Zhou, I will not hide from you anything. For this matter, it's hard to explain in just a few words. Based on this Qin's knowledge, I'm ashamed to be his teacher." Shaking his head some more, his face looked as though he was about to burst into tears. Zhou Fenghan's face turned cold as he slowly spoke, "If you say it like this, then what I've heard from the grapevine definitely has some form of truth. Luckily, this old man came a few years earlier. Or else." The latter could not help but feel a sense of fright. Mr. Qin was tongue-tied. Ling Tian had long guessed what Zhou Fenghan's reaction upon hearing the rumors would be. Now that the person in question opened his mouth, to think it was as though he was repeating from a script that Ling Tian had crafted, with the most difficult part being that not one word deviated from the original one by Ling Tian. It was as though a parrot was mimicking. In order to hide the smile that threatened to surface, Mr. Qin's mouth curved to a strange angle. In his heart, a wave of hooting laughter flooded up, threatening to explode out from his mouth. Whatever Mr. Qin had said was apparently right but wrong for different types of people who heard it, as they would have different interpretations. In actual fact, Mr. Qin was speaking the truth. He was indicating that his knowledge was insufficient, being his teacher in vain. But his words, upon entering Zhou Fenghan's ears, based on his first impression, he would definitely come out with a completely different reasoning. Zhou Fenghan snorted once, before flicking aside his sleeve as he walked towards the Great Hall. Mr. Qin could not help but cough a few times softly before falling into step behind him. The Great Hall was already a mass of activity. The womenfolk had long left, only leaving Madame Ling holding on to the hands of a little girl, affectionately huddling together, not knowing what they were saying. Zhou Fenghan came over with a black face. Glancing around the hall, he found out that the young master of the Ling family had yet to make his appearance even till now. This caused him to be even unhappier. Calling out deeply, Xor came to grandfather's side. The little girl, Zhou Yanzu, gave a sound of acknowledgement, and climbed down from Madame Ling's embrace using both her hands, before skipping and jumping towards her grandfather's side. Her mouth seemed to be chewing on something, as she stretched out that jade-like white wrist of hers as though to present a treasure. "Grandfather, look, this is the present from Madame Ling to me." It was actually a jasper bracelet, looking pure and clear as water without the slightest hint of impurities. A blood-red phoenix could be seen vividly on the bracelet surface, following the movements of the bracelet, as though it wanted to break through and soar off. A look from Zhou Fenghan told him that the blood phoenix was in no way embedded into it, but rather, naturally formed. Such a treasure was hard to obtain even with 10,000 gold, but Madame Ling actually casually gave it away to his granddaughter. Obviously, she had already treated her as she would with her daughter-in-law. Thinking about this, Zhou Fenghan could not help but let out an agonized smile. As for the bracelet, Zhou Fenghan naturally understood that this was the heirloom of the Ling family, the Blood Phoenix Jasper bracelet, and its price was beyond compare, treated as a priceless treasure. Wearing it would cause a person to always become and collected, indeed a treasure without rival. Zhou Fenghan could not help but stutter, thinking to himself, "Looks like I have to really sever through the tangled hemp quickly, or else it will reach the route of no return." Outside the hall, the voice of a guard traveled over. "Young master, please follow this little one along, the sire has already been waiting for quite a while." Following which, the melodious sound of a child erupted in violent fury. "Bastard! You dog slave, are you looking to die? I told you long ago not to call me young master. Get the FK lost. What's so good about seeing that old Zhou? I'd rather go feed the birds." This was followed with a boo sound, presumably from the servant enduring a beating from the young master. In that moment, the audience in the hall all had wondrous expressions to behold. It was so silent, you could hear a pin drop. Both Ling Tian and Zhou Fenghan wore a face of black lines, so full of rage that it was on the verge of spilling out. Old Madame Ling was about to bring a cup of tea to her mouth, yet upon hearing the sentence, the teacup ended up falling to the floor, smashing into bits. Her eyes were filled with disbelief as she looked at the entrance. Even Mr. Qin, who had known that Ling Tian would perform a miraculous feat today, did not expect such a dominant and aggressive play, and his eyes opened wide as bells. Ling Zhou was apoplectic with rage, and with a bellow, his body shot forward as though he was flying. This was followed by a series of slapping sounds, before a little child's crying could be heard. This was closely followed by Ling Zhou returning, holding on to a bruised and battered Ling Tian. From Ling Tian's face, one could see that his beating was not light, and both his cheeks were swollen. With a swing, Ling Zhou threw his child onto the floor, yet still breathing heavily. Although Ling Tian opened his mouth a little, he concluded that this was not the appropriate place to discipline his grandchild, and only bellowed out, "Unfilial creature! Why haven't you come up to pay respects to your grandfather Zhou?" Laboriously standing up limb by limb, Ling Tian was cursing in his heart, "This time, your father, was conveniently so viciously hit." Rubbing his huge swelling on his once delicate face, He saw that the great hall now had an extra stranger dressed in green robes, carrying a beautiful little girl in his bosom. The stranger gave an expression as though he was about to eat him alive when he saw him. He was most likely the Zhao family's head, Zhao Fenghan. Wiping off the tears that he had forcefully squeezed out, he strode towards Zhao Fenghan. Just when the crowd thought that he was about to pay his respects to Zhao Fenghan, Ling Tian suddenly gave a sound of exclamation, then turned his eyesight while increasing his pace, saying, "Wah! This lass is my wife, right? Hey, she is so pretty, come, let me give you a kiss. Wah ha ha ha." The audience was petrified. Such a scene made people not want to look on, unable to withstand such a wicked behavior from such a young child. Zhao Fenghan was so angry that his entire body started to tremble, and he could not wait to punch that jerk to death with one blow right there and then. He hollered in anger, "Scram!" The little girl, Zhou Yanzu, was so frightened that she turned tail and threw herself into her grandfather's embrace, not daring to show her face again. Grandpa Ling nearly died there and then due to his anger. Gritting his teeth, he spoke, "Evil creature, Ling Zhou. Bring the family law book for this old man. Today, I shall cleanse the house." The boiling Ling Zhou, who was about to move forward to deal with his son, suddenly had a change in his expression, stopping in his steps. The originally deathly white face of old Madame Ling suddenly trembled as she screamed, "You dare!" She dashed down and grabbed Ling Tian into her bosom, saying, "Danner is still small. At such a small age, what can he know? How can you subject him to the family law?" Ling Zan bristled up his beard and said, "Still small? All of you used to keep saying so, but look at what pampering the child has brought to you. Even if this old man will be deprived of descendants, I shall take care of this little bastard today. Move aside." Chapter 37, Zhou family rejects the marriage. "You dare! Old thing! You just try to touch Danner today. Unless you punish me together with the family law as well." Old Madame Ling hugged her grandson tightly and refused to budge. "This child is mischievous and you can scold him however you wish. But if you want to use the family laws, you must step over my dead body first." Ling Tian could not help but stick out his lips secretly. Shit just got real. Grandfather actually wants to punish me. It seems that things will not end so simply today. His eyeballs began to roll all over, but he just did not have an idea of what to do. Zhou Fenghan was extremely calm, but his face was ashen. He stood up and said, "Big brother, relax. If you want to teach this child a lesson, you should wait for this younger brother to leave first. This little brother is here today because I have an unreasonable request. I hope that big brother will agree to it." Everyone in the Ling family could feel that something was going wrong as Ling Zan gave a dry cough. "Younger brother, please speak. No matter what it is, this brother will agree to it." He already had an idea of what Zhou Fenghan's unreasonable request was. No wonder he gave an official notice of visit today. Zhou Fenghan then said calmly, "Big brother, sister-in-law and I have known each other for 30 years. Big brother and sister-in-law are all extremely close to me and have even saved my life on multiple occasions. This little brother does not dare to forget about it. Every time I think about the days when the three of us roamed the continent together, I always felt that knowing the both of you has made my life to be without regrets. The things which I am about to say are unrelated to our brotherly ties. No matter what happens, I, Zhou Fenghan, will not treat the both of you any differently." Ling Zan trembled as tears filled his eyes. "Fenghan, if you have an issue, you can just mention it. Your elder brother is still the head of the Ling family now. No matter what you say, even if you want my life, I will not frown even the slightest." Zhou Fenghan then knelt down and kowtowed to Ling Zan once before standing up. Everyone was stunned by the solemn atmosphere and did not stop him. They only heard as he said with a mellow voice, 5 years ago, both of our families had a pre-planned marriage to bring our families closer. We agreed that if they were both males, they would become sworn brothers. If they were both females, they would become sisters. If one was male while the other female, they would be married. At that time, this old man had made the request and elder brother agreed without a second thought. Today, I mention this again because I will have to break this promise and apologize to elder brother and sister. As he said that, everyone present had already understood what he meant. Ling Tian let out a long sigh and he seemed to have aged a lot in that instant. The wrinkles on his face also seemed to have deepened as he stood there for a moment with his body trembling slightly. All of a sudden, everyone could sense a feeling of desolation emanating from that large body. Ling Tian was filled with guilt in his heart as he thought to himself, "I'm sorry. Grandfather, this grandson has made you sad. Although you will not be able to understand everything I do, it is all for the future of the Ling family. You will definitely be able to understand my intentions one day." Zhao Fenghan then continued, "Ever since this little brother came into the capital, I have heard many rumors about how mischievous, incorrigible and domineering the young master of the Ling family is. This little brother thought that it was merely someone spreading false rumors. After all, just how mischievous can a 5-year-old child be? But today, this old man witnessed with my very own eyes and feel that the words mischievous and domineering are not enough to describe this child." Everyone from the Ling family could not lift their heads up. They were being criticized by others but could not retaliate with a single word. This feeling was something they had never felt before. Only Ling Kong and Ling Zhen had a look of humiliation but were ecstatic in their hearts to the point they wanted to cheer out loud. As such, Feng Han thinks that the precious gem of the Zhao family, the little princess whom everyone dotes on, is not suitable to be with your grandson. This old man cannot use the happiness of my granddaughter to gamble on the fact that Ling Tian will change when he grows up. This old man thinks that this marriage should be put to an end right here and now. I hope that elder brother will agree." Zhao Fenghan straightened his back and slowly made his statement. Although everyone from the Ling family had already guessed the reason for Zhao Fenghan to reject the marriage, they were still at a loss when they heard it. Old Madame Ling began to feel herself black out as her eyes shut and her body fell backwards. She was then hugged by Ling Tian as he placed his palm on her back and channeled a wave of pure Jian Tian Qi into her body. Only after a moment later did old Madame Ling let out a groan as she regained her senses. Everyone's attention was focused on Zhao Fenghan and no one noticed the irregularity in old Madame Ling's body. At this moment, she had already recovered and would naturally not draw any attention. But old Madame Ling herself knew that there was a warm energy being channeled into her body from her back. In this wave of energy, it was filled with a strong life force. All of the hidden injuries in her body which were from her younger days had actually recovered through this wave of energy. At the same time, she felt that her body had never been stronger as her vitality was at its peak. She could not help but look towards Ling Tian with shock, looking at his serious face with a palm to her back. She tapped her grandson's hands lightly as old Madame Ling felt that her own grandson was definitely out of the ordinary. At the very least, he was definitely not like how he appeared on the surface. Perhaps, he has his own intentions about the matters today. But this marriage is really such a pity. Haze. Forget it, let him be. Knowing that her own grandson was not as mischievous as he appeared on the surface, old Madame Ling felt that it was a surprise and was extremely satisfied. You, this old fox Zhao, rejecting this marriage is definitely something you will regret for life. Old Madame Ling began to think to herself. Ling Tian knew that his grandmother would definitely find out about his own secret and there was no way for him to hide it any longer. Thus, he whispered into her ears, "Rest assured, grandmother. If grandmother really likes that lass, grandson will just marry her when I grow up." Old Madame Ling became excited in her heart. At this moment, she was certain that the matters today were just all part of her grandson's plan. Although she did not know what his intentions were, she knew that her grandson had his own plans and would not let her down for sure. She could not help but praise with a smile, "Good, good. Good tenor, obedient tenor. Ha ha ha." In that moment of excitement, her laughter and praises actually escaped from her lips. She immediately felt that something was wrong and hurriedly covered her mouth. But things were already too late, as everyone in the hall had heard her praises. At this moment, Ling Tian also became anxious as he pinched his grandmother's hands. Old Madame Ling immediately noticed her mistake as she grunted, You really anger this old lady to death." As Zhao Fenghan heard her praise, his eyes narrowed as he almost died from anger. If it were him, he would definitely beat this vile creature to death a long time ago. But she actually praised him as such. Isn't this akin to slapping his face in front of everyone? Only after he heard the following words of old Madame Ling did he calm down for a moment, as he thought to himself, "So, she laughed out of extreme anger." Chapter 38, Big Gamble. Mr. Ken, who was by the side, observed how the whole event unfolded. Everything actually went according to his plan without the slightest deviation. The shock in his heart just could not be described with words. As Zhao Fenghan requested to reject the marriage, everyone in the Ling family was in a state of shock and could not react at all. Only after a short moment did Ling Zan sit back down in his chair as he said with desolation, "Forget it. Forget it. Such a vile creature is definitely not a match for Gswer. There is no need to harm her for life. Let's just call it off." Zhao Fenghan felt extremely bad as he looked at how miserable his big brother and sister-in-law looked. "Big brother, sister-in-law, Fenghan has went back on my words today and no longer have the face to look at the both of you. This little brother will take his leave." Ling Zan waved his hands weakly and replied, "Don't mention about that. If you were to talk about who does not have the face to meet who, it will be the Ling family who does not have the face to look at you. This matter is all because elder brother did not discipline my child enough, resulting in such an affair. How is this related to younger brother?" But Ling Zan suddenly stood up straight and said loudly, "It doesn't matter whether or not the marriage is called off. Even if you do not call it off today, this old man will also call it off if I do not bring up my grandson well. Whether or not this marriage exists, it must not affect the relationship between us brothers. Since this matter is settled, then this issue is over already. But if you come to my house and do not stay with me for a few days to have a good catch-up, I will take it that I do not have this brother anymore." Zhao Fenghan's eyes shone as he heard that. "Of course I will. Since I am already at Big Brother's house, younger brother will definitely have to disturb you for a few days." He also felt relaxed in his heart. 30 years of brotherhood was not affected by this matter. He then greeted old Madame Ling, "Sister-in-law, I hope that sister-in-law will also punish me for being rude. I seek the forgiveness of sister-in-law. Little brother is also a grandfather now and have to plan for my future generations." His voice was full of sincerity. Old Madame Ling also laughed and said casually, "Little Han, now that the marriage is over, you cannot throw away your big brother and sister-in-law. Don't worry, I am not so narrow-minded. You are still the little Han that I dote on the most." As Zhao Fenghan heard the address which only his sister-in-law called him, his eyes turned red as he was moved. Sister-in-law is really too magnanimous. This little brother is speechless. 30 years ago, the three of them were roaming the continent together as old Madame Ling called Zhao Fenghan Little Han. Because of this, the both of them even fought over it because Zhao Fenghan refused to accept such an address. But old Madame Ling just refused to change that address. As such, Zhao Fenghan became helpless as time went by, and this address was one that belonged uniquely to old Madame Ling. It is just that as they began to grow older, old Madame Ling did not call him as such for many years already. Now that they were also old and Zhao Fenghan heard this memory-filled name again from old Madame Ling, a wave of nostalgia hit him as he thought about those hot-blooded, rash and exciting days they used to have in the past. At that time, Big Brother was full of mettle and extremely fit. sister-in-law was always clad in white with her black long hair resting on her shoulders. As he thought about the past, he could not help but go into a daze. As he opened his eyes and looked at the white hair and wrinkles on his big brother and sister-in-law, his heart could not help but turn sour as he thought to himself, even if us brothers were together every day, with our time coming soon, just how long more will we be able to gather as such? After a moment, Zhao Fenghan ordered, "Blackguards, fetch the luggage from the villa. Bring everyone else as well. For the next few days, this old man will have a good gathering with big brother and sister-in-law." Two of the black guards responded respectfully and exited the door. Dukeling broke out into a laughter as the desolation was completely washed away. "That's the way. Even if we aren't in-laws, we are still the best brothers. Brother, this decision of yours suddenly made you more pleasing to the eye." Of course, Dukeling would not be able to let go of the fact that Zhao Fenghan rejected the marriage so easily. Up until now, he was still brooding over it. But he could not blame Zhao Fenghan either. From the way Ling Tian saw it, this decision of his was not wrong if he were to put himself in Zhao Fenghan's shoes. It is just that Ling Tian felt that his own grandson was just too useless, betraying the goodwill of his little brother. Ling Tian then made a decision in his heart: when this matter is settled, I will definitely have to groom Ling Tian well. Old Madame Ling then said with a laugh, "Little Han, there is something that sister-in-law has to say first." Zhao Fenghan was in an extremely good mood and replied with a smile, "Sister-in-law, please speak." Old Madame Ling then chuckled, making Zhao Fenghan tremble a little as the hair on his arms stood up. He remembered that every time his sister-in-law has a sly plan to prank him, she would reveal such an expression. Old Madame Ling then said with a smile, "Today, you have rejected the marriage and sister-in-law will not blame you. But if a few years later you regret this matter, sister-in-law will want you to count out to me 3 times. How about that? Do you dare to take up this gamble?" Zhao Fenghan broke out into laughter as he replied, "Sister-in-law, aren't you joking?" Looking at Ling Tian, who was in the arms of his grandmother, he said with resolution, "This matter is impossible." Old Madame Ling then grunted, "Are you that sure? What if it happens?" Zhao Fenghan said with a cold sneer, "Sister-in-law does not need to force me. If these two little fellows are able to come together many years later, then Fenghan is willing to count out to you an apology, announcing to the world that I, Zhao Fenghan, was blind. At the same time, I will present half of my Zhao family estate as dowry for Gswer. Is sister-in-law satisfied with this?" Everyone's faces began to change. The stakes are extremely high. The fortune of the Zhao family can no longer be described to rival a nation anymore. Even half of the Zhao family's fortune is much greater than the fortune of a nation. But as everyone thought about it, they all realized that Zhao Fenghan was probably making a passing remark only. The way they saw it, it was impossible for Ling Tian and Zhou Yanzu to come together in future. No matter how they looked at it, old Madame Ling was more likely to lose. It can be said that it is impossible for Zhao Fenghan to lose this bet. Old Madame Ling then laughed, "Little Han, you must remember this bet. Of course, if the both of them are unable to come together, then this old lady would lose the bet. Even though our Ling family is poorer than your Zhou family, I will take out half of our Ling family estate as dowry for Gswer." Everyone was startled. This old lady can't be foolish, right? Just for her pride, she would be willing to give up half of the fortune of the biggest family in the empire? The way everyone saw it, the Ling family would definitely not be able to keep their wealth if this bet were to take place.